Hello and welcome. My name is Amber Campman. I am a yoga teacher and integrative nutrition and somatic experiencing coach. And this video will share two somatic practices that you can use anytime, anywhere to create a felt sense of safety within your body. So the first exercise is called orienting, and the second one is called marking your territory. Both of these practices are based on the natural behavior of animals, of which humans are part of. We are animals, and will happen naturally in those of us that have a regulated nervous system. But when our nervous systems become dysregulated, or we know that we're in an activated state, meaning our sympathetic nervous system is activated into fight or flight response, or we have become overwhelmed by something and our nervous system has gone into the dorsal vagal freeze response, we can use these practices to intentionally inform our nervous system that we are, in fact, safe and hopefully be able to shift back to the parasympathetic state of the nervous system where we are calm, alert, and can access the part of our brains, most importantly, that control rational thought and higher level thinking, because we'll be shifting out of that part of our brain that is focused on survival. So just a little disclaimer for both of these practices. They're coming from the assumption that there's not currently an immediate threat to your survival present in your environment. So if there is, then action needs to be taken immediately to address that threat. So let's jump in. Orienting. So orienting is the first practice that we're going to do. Orienting is a term for the process of engaging with the environment around us through our senses. So it's an instinctual response that happens to keep our bodies safe. So, for example, we're hanging out with friends, you're sitting around a campfire, and the wind starts blowing in your direction. So now the smoke is coming at you, and you can smell the smoke more. Maybe you can taste it a little bit in your mouth or the back of your throat as it surrounds your face. And maybe from the smoke coming into your face, your eyes start to water. Maybe you feel that light burning sensation in the eyes caused by the smoke. You may feel a change in the temperature on your skin. So like if the fire was big enough and it's now blowing more in your direction, you can feel a change in that temperature. And you may turn your head and look over and acknowledge that that is what's happening. And then you most likely will decide to move your seat to a different place that's upwind. So that's an example of orienting. That would be considered defensive orienting. So you're taking the sensations that are coming in from your different sensory neurons and deciding how to make yourself safer. There's also just exploratory orienting. So this is when we look around our environment from a state of curiosity to just understand and properly interact with it. So a real life example of this would be when you're you're at the beach, right? You've walked to the beach with all of your stuff for the day to go sit out on the beach. And usually, there's some dunes that you have to go through, and you come out to the top, and then you can kind of see the beach front in front of you. You may look around and be looking for your spot, like where you'll notice where the people are and where there's space available for you to put your stuff down. You may notice things like, oh, it's windy. So if we're up further away from the beach, then we might get hit with more of that dry sand whacking us. Maybe we want to go down further to the beach, and you may notice the waves and the smells and just kind of taking it all in before you decide what to do. When people have a dysregulated nervous system, so either a history of trauma in their life experience, and to clarify, by trauma, I mean time spent with their nervous system in the dorsal vagal freeze response. So they've had experiences that for them were too much for their system. Either they experienced something that was too much too fast, or they had an experience of having too little for too long. That would cause you to go into the dorsal vagal freeze response. Or maybe a high amount of stress, chronic stress, a lot of time spent in the sympathetic state, or a fluctuating between those two. The natural practice of orienting can decrease. So, if you are somebody who, when you walk into a new space, you like to keep your head down, not really look around, just kind of focus on where you're going, that might be an example of that natural instinct being in a little bit of a decreased state. So we're going to start orienting intentionally for the purpose of helping our nervous system to understand that we are safe and to build up that instinct if it's been lessened for us. Just additional things to mention to keep in mind are that it can be a common experience. You logically know that you're safe, but you still don't feel that way internally. So these types of exercises are not like a once and done deal. This is a practice, and you would ideally be doing this type of a practice on a daily basis over time. That can help expand. That's how you can expand your capacity to feel safe in your body and reprogram your nervous system. It really takes a lot of consistency. So this practice of awareness through your senses also gives that prefrontal cortex part of the brain that little nudge that it might need to come back online over time. And having that online gives you the opportunity to consciously make decisions about the accuracy of your feelings and the sensations that are coming up, and hopefully be more equipped to make decisions to leave an environment where you continually feel unsafe. So if you're doing this sort of a thing and you're noticing things in your environment that continually cause you to feel unsafe, hopefully this is a practice that can build that awareness for you so that you can take action to maybe change some things about the environment when and where you're able to. This also could at first feel a little bit uncomfortable. So you may experience the desire to flee or maybe a little sense of internal panic at first. If that comes up for you, please know that that is normal. You also may find yourself in the urge to distract yourself from what you're doing. So whatever comes up for you during the practice, just know that it is normal. You're witnessing in real time, maybe some patterns within your own nervous system. So this can be helpful data for you to have. And you do have the ability to take an intentional break from the practice if you need to. So if you're feeling that desire to kind of flee or get up and go, maybe do say, okay, I'm going to get up. I'm going to just walk around the room for a little bit, and then come back, see if you can and work on the practice again. That's the beauty also of having a video, is you can always kind of pause and come back. You can give yourself an intentional distraction break. If you're feeling that urge for distraction, maybe just take a couple of minutes to distract if it's looking at your phone or whatever it is, and then coming back to the practice. So just keep that in mind as we're going through some of this stuff. So let's get to it. Orienting is incredibly simple in and of itself. So the first thing I want you to do is just decide where you're going to practice orienting for now. If it's in your house, in your room, in a dwelling, great. Is there a specific room or space that you want to be in? If you're not there already, take a moment to get up and get there. If it's outside, that's also completely fine. Another thing to know is you can be seated or standing. You get to decide that as well. And you can change that while we're doing the practice. If you feel like you're seated, but you need to stand during the practice, that's completely fine. Also, orienting can be done with just one sense, like focusing on one sense for a while, but just as a heads up, for the purposes of giving you like the range of experiences, we're going to go through all of the senses with this practice. Those are sound, sight, smell, taste, and touch, not necessarily in that order. What we are going to start with is our sense of sight. So take a moment. Let's take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Maybe take a couple more of those. If your eyes naturally go closed when you're taking deep breaths like mine do, you can let them come open. And just start to look around your environment. Allow your eyes to explore your space more fully. And just allow your brain to matter-of-factly, if you see things that you notice, you can name them. You can identify them in your head, like picture, cup, folder, fridge, whatever you have in your environment. You can just allow yourself to identify what they are. It could be objects, colors, shapes. If there are pictures that you see, you can identify the people in the pictures. There's no wrong way to do this. You're just kind of going around and noticing what is there. Make sure that you are turning your head in all directions, just waking up that brainstem area. Making sure you're turning your head if you are able to, from left to right. Tilting the chin up, looking up at the ceiling, noticing anything there is to notice about what is above you. And taking a moment to kind of move a little bit, you can look under things. So you can intentionally look in things, thinking of that idea of like looking for monsters under the bed, knowing so that you know that they're not there, right? It's an orienting practice. Who knew? So if you need to get up, this is kind of where, if you're seated, you may notice that you want to get up and look around. That's completely fine. I'm going to take the opportunity to do that. I'll meet you back here. So really focusing on that sense of sight and what you are taking in through your eyes. If while you do this, you notice a sensation within your body when you're looking at a particular object or a part of the space that you're orienting to, just note that. You can write it down. What was the sensation? Maybe you noticed that your heart rate increased, or you noticed a like little pang of tension in the body somewhere, or a sense of feeling like tired or heavy when you look at something in particular. So you're really honing in here on what you're seeing and then how you feel in the body. You don't need to analyze it or understand it or judge it. It's just noticing from a state of curiosity, and those types of sensations may not come up at all, and that's okay too. The goal here is to build your awareness of how your body communicated to you that it needed to be alerted to this object or space or whatever in some way. Another way that we notice that might be our thoughts. Maybe if you have like a little flurry of thoughts in particular around a certain object or space as you're alert, so to speak. See, you can notice what that thought was. You can write down that thought and then drop down into the body and see if there are any sensations in the body that come up with that thought. Still looking around. Really take your time here. If you notice objects that bring a sense of calm to your body, that is another sensation. It doesn't always have to be a sensation that feels like a tense sensation. So just noticing what's happening. If you notice any objects that bring you a sense of comfort, of calm, can note them as well. So I want to give you a moment to pause the video here if you need more time. You do want to take your time with each sense, maybe 1 to 2 minutes each, so that the whole practice could take about 5 to 10 minutes. But when you're ready, we're going to move on to our sense of sound and what we're taking in through our hearing. So just take a deep breath for a moment, disconnecting from that sense of sight. If you need to, you can close your eyes and focusing on what you hear. So what sounds are coming in? So you can do the same thing of identifying the sounds, like letting your sense of hearing be like a little bee. And you notice the sound, identify it, move on to the next sound. And take a moment to notice which sounds feel like they are very close to you. Can you hear sounds within your own body? Can you hear your breath? Or maybe if you swallowed, you could hear that sound inside. And then checking to see any sounds that feel within your space still, but maybe not on your body. So what are some sounds that are like a little level closer to you? They're still close in your immediate space. So I hear the humming of an air conditioner. I hear a cat who needs her nails trimmed, walking into another room to get probably something to eat. When I lean back a certain way, I can hear this chair creaking. These are just examples within my immediate environment. And then noticing any sounds that might seem as though they're a little bit outside of your immediate space, maybe in a different room, but still in your dwelling. Or if you're outside, maybe a little bit further away from you, maybe like birds up in a tree. I'm not getting too many other sounds that sound like they're outside of, oh, nope, a dehumidifier just kicked on in a different room. You hear that? And now any sounds that sound like they're outside of your space, so the furthest away, ones that seem the furthest away. Any sounds that you can hear. Maybe this is a sound from outside, like car driving by or people walking down your street. I can hear rain hitting the little roof over the steps outside my door. And again, as we did with sight, if there are any sounds that you notice that cause a sensation in your body, just jot down what the sound was and what the sensation was, like where it might have been in your body and what it felt like. Were any of the sounds something that were alerting you in some way to a potential danger, or just letting you know in your body that you like a comforting sound? So taking your time here, again, pause the video if you need to, write anything down that has come up for you. If nothing has come up, it's okay. This is a practice, and if this is your first time doing it, that's all right. We're going to shift our attention now to our sense of smell. So what do you notice coming in through your nose? This one, you may not have a huge amount. Maybe you have like I tend to have a essential oil diffuser going. I don't have it going right now, so I can't pick up on that smell. If you are picking up any smell, do you notice any sensations in the body that come with it? Again, whether or not that be like an alerting you of something, giving you a sense of comfort. I can kind of smell the coffee pot still, which is a nice smell for me. And write anything down that you need to. Pause the video if you need to. Another one is our sense of taste. I know that this one might seem a little silly. A lot of times we don't feel like we have a sense of taste in our mouths, but you might. Just run your tongue around your mouth. Just really focusing on that sense is the practice as well. Whether or not anything comes up is fine. And do you notice anything? Is there anything that you want to write down that you notice or sensations that came up as you were doing that? One way that you can orient, and this is also a mindfulness exercise, would be to take like one little piece of food, maybe like one square of chocolate or a raisin or something tiny, and just completely connecting with that sense of taste as you slowly eat that piece of food, really being mindful about it. And we're going to shift again to sense of touch. We're going to explore this a little further in the marking your territory exercise, but I just want to give you a moment to notice what sensations you may be taking in through your skin. So can you feel any pressure pushing against your skin from maybe what you're sitting on? Can you feel your clothing at all against your skin? And is that feeling comforting? What textures maybe do you notice? Like I can notice I happen to have cotton shorts on, and then I have this little crocheted pillow that my Bapji made on my office chair. And that crocheted material is a little rougher, and I can feel where the shorts stop and that uh, little scratchy pillow comes in on my skin. Or even just can you get a sense of like air touching your skin, air in the room, especially if you have a fan on, but even not, do you feel any shifts in the air on your skin in the room? And anything else that you might notice? Maybe differences in temperature. Maybe your legs feel cooler than your bottom, or anything like that that might come up. For example, my torso feels the warmest because it has the most layers of clothes on it right now. If there's anything else that you want to write down here that you've noticed, you can. Now, if you had some sensations come up that you jotted down that seem to be telling you for whatever reason that something that you saw or heard or felt or smelled or tasted was unsafe, this is when you could decide like what action you might need to take around those things. So were any of these objects or things that you noticed was there something that you could do about them, either by changing where you were in the space or changing something within the space itself? So you have an opportunity possibly for there to be a way that you could address the environment to make it feel safer for your body. So for example, when I look around and I see on my table a pile of like I have my like to-do pile basically. And when I see that, I get a little jolt in my body. My body's alert zone seems to typically be my solar plexus here, like right under my breasts. And this tells me that I probably want that clutter to be dealt with. It's giving me a little jolt of panic. So if I have the energy and the capacity to do something about it, then I will. Or I'll make a note that some decluttering is necessary for me in the near future to address that. Additionally, you can spend some time intentionally orienting to something that does provide a felt sense of safety within your space. So if you're having a moment of anxiousness internally, and you know that you have this, I'm trying to find one in my space. I have I have some artwork from my son right in front of me. And so I know I can look at that and it gives me like a calm, you are loved, you are safe type of a feeling inside. So that is another way that you can use orienting as a tool to bring yourself back down to a parasympathetic state if you're feeling worked up about something. It's a really great tool. You can use it at any time to change your environment or just observe your environment so that you're aware of how your environment is impacting you. This is something that you can do when you walk from one room to another, or when you go grocery shopping, or to the gym, or to work. It's a practice in awareness. So I hope that you enjoyed that. We'll take it another step further by talking about the second somatic practice, or marking your territory. So if you want to take a little break before jumping into the next exercise, you certainly can. Marking your territory is also relatively quick. And it's another form of reverse engineering a felt sense of safety by intentionally informing our nervous system that we're safe through our sense of touch specifically. So animals in the wild live in a huge natural environment, often with plenty of life-threatening dangers. And yet they are still able to rest, to sleep, to relax, to take naps when they need to. And how do they do that? How do they get that sense where they're safe enough to be able to sleep during the day, knowing that all of these things could be around them at any time? And they mark their territory. So this practice, don't worry, you're not going to have to like pee on anything. What they do is they move through their environment and they get a sense of like what area in their environment is theirs and essentially what their boundaries are. So anything or anybody that then crosses those boundaries, they know they could mark as a threat so that they know when they need to respond in a specific way. But until then, until that boundary is crossed, they don't need to respond. There's no threat, there's no danger for them to address. So this somatic practice is about you having a felt sense of marking your own territory so that you can start to develop that felt sense of safety within the space that you have marked as yours and safe. So just like in orienting, you're going to engage with your senses. You're going to intentionally move around the space that you're in. You're going to look around with your eyes as well. You're going to notice what you hear. You're going to notice those things, but you're also going to touch things. You're going to touch the walls, the cabinets, the chairs, the furniture, whatever is in the space, obviously, that seems safe to touch through your other senses. And you're touching it with the thought of, this is mine. So not from a place of like aggression, just a place of personal power. Like you have the right to be in this space and to be safe. And you're letting yourself and the space know by walking around and marking your territory. So let's all get up. We're going to start wandering around our space. If you're outside, you get to decide what your territory zone is. If you're inside, it may be the room that you're in. We're just trying this exercise on. So just see what happens in the body. You can pause the video if you need more time. I'm probably going to get up and do this for like a short period just for the sake of the length of the video, but you can pause and come back. Once you've returned to your original spot, you're just going to pause and notice what sensations come up in the body. So really tune in to what's going on inside, maybe any thoughts that come up, sensations, that sort of a thing. You can write anything down that you want. So I'll see you back here in a few. So I have returned to my seat again. You may still be working through this. Maybe this is paused, but I'm going to sit and notice what comes up in my body. So I notice that my breath is calm and steady. My belly feels relaxed. And I noticed when I was touching certain things, I got a sense to take a spontaneous deep breath, which I know for me means that my nervous system is like, yes, this is good. This is nice. Sometimes I get an urge to yawn. I'm kind of feeling one in in there, but it's not coming out. Um, yeah, I feel more relaxed inside. My shoulders are relaxed. I have a lot of tension in my shoulders. I don't feel that at this point in time. So you can write down anything that you notice for you after this exercise. And just as you practice these things, and if you choose to practice these things, the sensations may be different every time. So it's not something where you're looking for like necessarily the same thing all the time. You're just coming to these practices with an open mind. These are great practices to keep in mind when you're entering a new environment, particularly one where you might have some apprehension around, like if you are going to speak somewhere publicly, if you can get there a little bit earlier. This is a great tool to use for when you arrive at the location, familiarize yourself with the stage or the speaking area, the space people will be in, touch the walls, mark your territory, feel your own right to be there in that space. Or if you're, first day of school type of a thing. It doesn't have to be anything that's super obvious to other people either, just being observant, taking a moment to just touch the desk, look around, look in the desk, those sorts of things are all things that you could talk with your kids about doing. So those are the two practices that I wanted to share with you today. I hope that they were helpful. I hope that you were able to get a better sense of safety within your body from doing them. Again, they will take some practice and time, and I would love to hear what you experienced. Please always feel free to contact me and share your experiences. Let me know if you have questions that come up. I'd love to hear from you about this video. Thanks so much.